Feel free to use the skip ahead feature on the right side to jump to any specific sections or examples that you'd like to go to. Beep, 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 beep. Today we'll be using Python 2.7.4. You can download it from python.org/get it. So today's focus is going to be Python files and user input. This will build heavily on past lessons, so feel free to click on the right side to jump back to a previous video if anything is unclear. Alright, Python files, what are they? They're files that end in .py, .pyw, or .pyc. The .pyc is a compiled Python. The other two are writable. In other words, you can change them. So why do we use Python files? Why don't we just punch everything into the shell? Because if you've noticed in the past, we've had to retype and retype stuff over and over again. This allows us to save it all in one location and edit it if we need to make any changes rather than having to retype it. So it's very flexible, save our work for future use, we don't have to type things over and over, and we can run whenever we're ready. So how do we create them? Well, it's very simple. First, let's jump to our desktop and go ahead and create a folder. And we're going to go ahead and name this folder Python Testing. Enter to jump into the folder. And now we have a nice clean folder. Right click on the inside in here. If you're using Mac, I'm not sure how you're going to do this, but you're going to go ahead and create a text document where you can edit the whole text name. So you're going to name this test.py, and you're going to change the file extension to py so that we can actually run it in Python. So yes, we want to change it. We've now created our first Python file. So we're going to right click and we can go edit with idle. Enter. So for our very first Python file, we're going to go ahead and punch in just 2 lines. The first one is going to be print space superham, because I love ham so much. Second line, type in raw underscore input, open parentheses, quotations, press enter to end this awesome script. In quotations, in parentheses, and then we're going to go ahead and save the file there, and then close it. And now what will happen is when we double click this file, it'll run and it'll bring up a command prompt or terminal if you're on Mac, and it'll spit out exactly what it does. So just double click on it, and now we see superham is printed at the top, and then we see our misspelled awesome. That's a bummer. We see print and press enter to end this awesome script. Press enter and it ends. Perfect. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and right click to enter this file again, and I'm going to shrink it down. Note that if you double clicked and it did nothing, it could be because you don't have Python connected to Python files, and that's pretty easy to do. You just right click and then you go open with, and then you choose python.exe, or you can always go to your program's directory in your C drive, and then Python typically installs on the top of the C drive. So you're going to go right here under Python 27, and then right here, python.exe. You're going to go ahead and drag that file right onto there, and it'll run. Beautiful. So in our script, we use this command, raw underscore input. What does it do? This is a way of getting user input. Here I was just using it to stop the script from running, and so that when we press enter, it would just close out. So how do we use raw input? Well, for starters, you want to typically store your values that's going to be returned from the user into a variable. So here I've typed d equals raw input, and this basically will store whatever the user inputs into the variable d. Raw underscore input is the function, and then within the parentheses of raw input, you're going to punch in whatever string you want to be output to the user to prompt them to enter something. So in this case, we said press enter to end this awesome script. Gosh, that's misspelling's bothering me. Okay. And what happens is once the user presses enter, then it continues on the script. Since there is nothing else after the script, it closes out the file. Alright, so let's try another example. That's our first ever Python game. We're going to go ahead and create another text file. Right click, and we're going to go ahead and create text document, and we're going to punch in guessing game, if I can spell, .py. Enter. Yes, we want to change the file file extension. Okay, and right click to enter with idle, to edit with idle. Blah blah blah. Okay, so this is going to be a few more lines than the last one. We're going to start out by typing highest is equal to 10. Enter. Answer is equal to 7. Enter. Guess is equal to raw underscore input, open parentheses, quotations, guess a number from 0 to $D colon space in quotations, and then we're going to punch in % space highest. So for a quick second, I'm going to break up this line, but what we're doing is the highest number is equal to 10, and we want that to be plugged in to where that %D is, because it's an integer. So that's all. Next, we're going to type in while, open parentheses, int, open parentheses, guess, close parentheses, is not equal to answer, colon. So it's basically saying while the integer value of the guess, or whatever the user inputs, is not equal to the answer, then we're going to keep running this script. Enter. If, open parentheses, int, open parentheses, guess, close parentheses, is less than answer, colon. So as long as their guess, when it's converted from a string into an integer, is less than the answer, enter. Print, space, answer is higher, close parentheses, enter. And then we're going to do else, enter, print, answer is lower. So this is basically saying, hey, if their guess is higher than the answer, then print answer is higher. Otherwise, print the answer is lower. Perfect. And after this, we're going to close off the loop by copying this line right here, and I'm holding Shift and typing and pressing the N key on the keyboard, Control C, and then I'm going to press Tab once to indent, and then paste it right there. So this way, the user is constantly being prompted because we have the condition of the while loop right here. As long as the answer or their guess is not equal to the answer, we're going to keep asking them to input more and more. And finally, if they've exited the loop, then we're going to go type in raw underscore input, open parentheses, you are a winner face. Exclamation points, close quotations, and close parentheses. And this is merely to stop our program at the very end, so it doesn't just exit and we don't know what happened. Perfect. Save it. Okay, so we're now ready to run our script, and this time we're going to run it within idle. So the way we do that is go run, and then in the drop-down, click Run Module, or F5, the keyboard shortcut. Okay, and now we've got it working. So it says, guess a number from, because I didn't put a dang space in there. Well, guess a number from 0 to 10. I'm going to type in 4. Enter. Answer is higher. Perfect. So let's guess 8. And I'm guessing purposely the wrong answer here. So now we type in 7, and it should end our script. Perfect. It says, you are a winner face. Enter, and then it closes out our script. And now it's done. Perfect. Our script works beautifully. Alright, so now we're going to talk about importing modules. And this is a way of getting functions, classes, and variables from other files. So why do we use this? It's a way of accessing other libraries for stuff that you may need. So the way we do this is we use the keyword import, and then we name the file or library that we wish to import from. You can also use from module import some specific thing. There'll be an example of that later on. So for now, the reason that we're going to be using this is because our script, if we open it up again, is very bland because the game we already know the answer to. So we're going to go ahead and fix this so it's actually a much more interesting game. So when you import files or libraries, it's important to place them at the beginning of the file. So we're going to go ahead and go to the very beginning and type enter to get a couple spaces in there, and then we're going to type in import random. And then right here, we're going to edit this to where it says 7. We're going to delete that and instead type random dot rand, R-A-N-D, range, all one word. And then we're going to punch in highest, the variable that we just declared above. So what this is saying is that from the module random, which we imported above, we're going to access the function called rand range. And what this function does is it gets a number from 0 to whatever the highest value we punch in here. In this case, it's 10. So we're going to get a random number and stick it in our answer. Now, let's go ahead and save the file and go ahead and run it. Go ahead and run module, enter. Okay, so now I have no idea what the number is going to be. So I'm going to start out by pressing 5. Enter. Answer is lower. All right, so maybe 3. Enter. I'm a winner. Cool. All right, so now we're going to discuss how to break up your code into separate files, modules, or chunks based on what they do. This will prevent you from having to scroll up and down forever in your code. It makes it much more manageable, reusable, recyclable, and just all around, it's a great practice to get into. Alright, so we've got 2 separate files and we want to import from one of them. How do we do that? You do this just as before with the import and then the file name at the top of the script. Now note that the file that you're importing from must be in the same directory as the other file. So going back to our folder, we have 2 files here, test and guessing game. If I wanted to access any functions from test file, it has to be right next to it in the same directory. Alright, so let's go ahead and try another example. We're going to right click and create another file and go new text file. This one we're going to call ph.py. Enter. Yes, I want to change it. Edit with idle. At this point we're getting pretty good at this, huh? And this is going to be a really short function. We're just going to type def print ham with the H uppercased. Open close parentheses and then put a colon. Enter. Print space ham, because I love ham so much. Save it, and now we're done with this file. So go ahead and close it. We're going to go ahead and right click and create another text file, but this one we're going to name main.py. So a good habit to get into is to name your main file. That's going to be executing all your main actions that all the classes are going to be imported into, whatever. It should be named main or something similar so that you know very clearly which one you should start with when you're coding and stuff. This is merely my practice. This is not everybody else's, but it's something I'd strongly recommend for beginners. All right, so I've got my main file open. I'm going to start out by typing import space capital PH because I named it PH up here. Enter, enter. And now I'm going to create a simple loop that just executes the function within PH over and over again. And PH stands for print ham, in case you're wondering. So for I in range 10, if I can type 10, colon, enter, PH dot print ham. Open close parentheses, because we didn't have any arguments within it. Enter, and then I'm just going to backspace type in raw underscore input, and in the quotations I'm going to put end of line, a reference to Tron, if any of you guys catch that one. Okay, go ahead and save the file, and let's go ahead and run it. Perfect, and notice here that it punched in ham 10 different times. Perfect, and then it printed end of line at the end. And now we can just press enter, and it ends. Beautiful. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. Great job keeping up today. Definitely take a few minutes to investigate these final examples, as they really do have some thought-provoking concepts within them. Please leave me a comment below if any of this helped you, and please do me a huge favor and subscribe to my channel. It would really mean a lot to me. And thank you so much for your support, and keep the dream alive! Feel free to use the skip ahead feature on the right hand side to jump ahead to any specific sections or examples. Today we'll be using Python 2.7.4. You can download it from python.org/getit. Today we'll be focusing on classes. This will build heavily on past lessons, so feel free to go back and watch them again if anything is unclear. Alright, so classes, what are they? So classes are a way of packaging variables and functions together. For instance, say we wanted to create a character in a video game. This character would have attributes and actions that he can do. For instance, he'd have health, he'd have a weapon to start out with, etc. And these would be his attributes or variables that we store specific stuff in. And the things that he can do are specific functions, like he can attack, he can run, he can explode. Who cares? So how do we use them? Well, let's go ahead and create on our desktop a class file. And I'm just going to do that by creating a text document. And we're going to call this classes underscore example.py. Okay. It's asking me if I want to change the file extension. Click yes. All right. And then I'm going to go ahead and right click and edit with idle. All right, so I have idle open. I have the Python file down below and then the shell up above. All right, so let's go ahead and begin with typing a very short class example. The way you start out declaring a class is using the keyword class. It's all lowercase, so C-A-L-L, I can't spell, C-L-A-S-S, space, and then typically with classes, you'll always want to start out the first letter uppercase, the rest of it lowercase. Unless there's multiple words, then you make those uppercase, start out uppercase as well. So we're going to type test, capital T, lowercase E-S-T, colon, enter, and just type pass, P-A-S-S. As you may remember from before, that's just a placeholder, doesn't do anything, just says, hey, just skip past this Python. All right, and after that, we're going to type x equals space, and then test. Open close parentheses, just like we would for calling a function, and then press enter, and we're done. Save it, and then press F5 on the keyboard, or you can go up to the run on the menu bar, and then run module right there. All right, and it worked. All right, so there was no errors returned, and it just created that class, then the program ended. Cool, that's exactly what we wanted. Excellent work. All right, so within classes, you'll notice that you'll be using this keyword self, and it'll be referring to anything that is its own function or its own variables. So if you're ever having any issues with creating classes, double check that you're using the keyword self within the arguments of the functions. Self is a way of saying, hey, this function is attached to me, or this is my function. The same goes for variables, which we're going to be creating in just a bit. So for now, we're going to go ahead and clear out this file, and we're going to start a new class. This one's going to be class, uppercase P, lowercase h, colon, enter, and then we're going to begin declaring our function. So we start with def, space, lowercase print, uppercase ham, and then begin the arguments, and here the very first argument we're going to put in is self. We're not going to put in any other arguments, but if you were to, you would use a comma and then put in wherever you wanted right there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and end the parentheses, colon, enter, print, and then in quotations, ham, enter, and we're done creating our class. So now we're going to go ahead and create an instance of the class. And we're going to do that with x equals uppercase P, lowercase h, open close parentheses, enter, and then we're just going to call that function using the dot accessor. So x dot print ham, open close parentheses, enter, save, and then we're going to run it pressing F5. Perfect. So we didn't have any errors returned, and it actually printed out ham. Our function worked exactly as we had. So our class example worked great. But what happens if we don't include self? Well, let's go ahead and try that out. We're going to delete self, save, press F5 again to run, and we're going to get a type error. And notice what the error says. Print ham takes no arguments, but one was given. That one that was given was actually the self that wasn't here. So we can really quickly fix that by typing self back in. So if you ever run into this error, you'll know that you're missing self in there probably. All right, so next we're going to declare a constructor or a initialization function for this class. All right, so what is a constructor? A constructor is a function that is called when the class is created. It is in charge of all the setup work for a class. For example, if we wanted our character to have some default health and weapons when he started the game, this is where we would put them. Alright, so we're going to change our current class to include a new constructor. We're going to go up to the very top and press enter to add in another definition. So def underscore underscore init underscore underscore, open parentheses, self, close parentheses, colon, enter. And next we're going to type in self.y is equal to 5. Save. And then at the very end of the file, we're going to go ahead and try to access that variable y. So what is this function that we just created? This is the constructor. Double underscore init double underscore is the name of the function that Python uses to construct stuff when it's initially created. You're always going to want to include self in the arguments, and then any variables or any functions that you wish to access within itself, you're going to use self dot whatever the variable name or the function name is. And this is saying, hey, this is my variable. If I were to create another variable like z, for example, I'll show you what will happen. At the very bottom of the file, go ahead and type print space x.y, and this will print out the y parameter that we plugged in. Then after that, type print x.z, save, and go ahead and run this. We should expect to find an error. Alright, let's look at what happened. Up above, we had ham print out because we ran that function print ham, worked great. Then we printed 5, which was the variable that was attached to the class object. And then we tried to access variable z. However, we did not include self dot in front of the z. So this variable was created locally within the function and then was deleted after it executed. So this variable z was not stored within the class. And so it returned this attribute error saying that there was no instance of z within it. Perfect. So that's exactly what we'd expect to happen. Alright, so what if we wanted to access functions within other functions? Well, it's very simple. Just the same way that we can access variables within a class, we can access functions. So right here, I'm going to actually call this print ham function right here within it in the init. So we should see it as soon as it's constructed, it will call this function. So I'm going to type in self.print ham, open close parentheses. We do not need to include self within this, within the arguments. It's only within the definition of the function itself. And now I'm going to delete those final 2 lines so that we're only creating the class instance. We're not actually calling the function outside of itself. Alright, so go ahead and click save, and then press F5 on the keyboard to run it. Perfect. So you saw ham printed out because this function was called within the initialization or the constructor of the PH class. Perfect. Great job. Alright, so next we're going to actually create our own hero class. And we're going to go ahead and clear out this file that we currently have. Alright, so let's begin by typing class, capital H for the hero, colon, enter, def underscore init underscore self, and then we're going to plug in another argument called name within the parameters, and then end it with a colon, enter. And now what we're doing is we're saying, hey, we're going to pass in a name. Now we need to store it within the character. So we're going to do that by typing self.name is equal to name. Enter. And so any name that we pass into the arguments will be stored right attached to the class. Perfect. After that, we're going to type in self.health is equal to 100. Enter. And we're going to create another function within this class. So we're going to go an unindent and type def eat, open parentheses, and we're going to type self because that has to be at the beginning of every function that within this class. And we're going to type in food, close parentheses, colon, enter. And then we're going to include a simple if-else-if statement to check for what food is being passed in to the arguments. So we're going to type in if, open parentheses, food is equal to, and that's double equal, to check for something. And we're going to check if it's equal to apple, in quotes, in parentheses, colon, enter. Self.health is minus equal to 100. Why? Why are we taking away health? This guy's allergic to apples, unfortunately, so he's going to die as soon as he eats an apple. Alright, so we're going to unindent and then type elif, open parentheses, food is equal to ham, close parentheses, colon, enter. Self.health is plus equals to 20. Perfect. And we're done creating this class. We're going to unindent all the way back down. And now we're going to wrap up the file by creating an actual class instance of this. So Bob is equal to hero, and then open parentheses, and then we're going to punch in his name, which is Bob, of course. In the quotations, in the parentheses, enter. So we're going to go ahead and double check everything now by typing print bob.name, print bob.health, and then bob.eat, and then we're going to feed him an apple to see what happens. And that apple is just a string. Enter, and then finally we're going to print Bob's health again. Bob.health, and now we're done. Alright, so to review, we've declared a class definition. We've declared an instance right here with Bob is equal to the hero. We've printed the name, we've printed the health, he eats an apple, and then we print his health again. Alright, let's go ahead and save. F5 to run it. Oh, so I ran into an error because I misspelled health up top. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that real quick. Health, save, and press F5 to run again. Perfect. Alright, so what's returned to us? Bob, the name, is returned first. Excellent, that's what we'd expect. And then Bob's health is returned at 100. He eats the apple, which he's allergic to, and then he has 0 health. Perfect. Let's go ahead and punch in ham in here to make sure that our ham is working. Ham, save, F5 to run. Perfect, we get 120 health. Excellent. Alright, so we're going to wrap up this example by adding some documentation for the hero. Now, in other examples, we've had documentation be added to within the function right here by using triple quotations and then ending it, and we can punch in like whatever we want right here, right? You can also do that the same way for classes. So we're going to go triple quote, enter, enter, triple quote, and then punch in whatever we want within here. So we're going to go ahead and punch in a quick string saying a hero who is allergic to apples. So this documentation is key because for any coders or anybody else creating instances of this down the road, they have this clarify what this class actually does. Alright, so this is the end of the Python Basics series. Congratulations on making it so far. Excellent work. You now know the basics and fundamental stuff that makes Python, Python. I will be starting up an intermediate series soon, so keep an eye out for that. Please subscribe so you don't miss it when it comes out. We'll be covering intermediate topics like object-oriented programming, inheritance, UML, Python Qt, Python with Maya, and reading and writing files. Thank you so much for watching. Great job keeping up. Definitely take a few minutes to investigate this final example. Please leave me a comment below if this helped you at all, and please do me a huge favor and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for all your support, and keep the dream alive.